Hello! All of the presentations from the experts at the 2024 Testicular Cancer Conference presented by Fennec Pharmaceuticals have now been posted on our YouTube channel. You can check them out by the playlist linked in the top right of the screen. As we look ahead to the 2025 conference, I wanted to share some of my top takeaways from this year's conference. It was hard to narrow it down, but I picked 3 things that I learned. Your top 3 things after attending or watching the presentations online might be different, and that's okay. Leave a comment and let us know what you learned. We'll start with my number 3 and work our way down to the number 1 thing I learned. Coming in at number 3, I found it interesting in Dr. Fred Millard's presentation that we all come to and leave the table with our own stressors and how this is being studied. Let's take a listen to the clip.
So just to say that before, during, and after treatment for this disease, we bring issues with us, we acquire new stresses during treatment, and then we deal with the aftermath. And this can have all kinds of a long tail on this whole treatment. Fear of recurrence, impact on our romantic relationships, financial stress, how it affects our jobs, etc. So I will just, in finishing up, say that there is a lot of interesting science going on in the effects of testicular cancer and its treatment on cognitive and neurological function. Here's an example of that. This is pretty much, I don't think, translated to the clinic too much yet, but I hope that will happen eventually. And this is a paper that Dr. Bagrodia wrote, which I will use to point out that the psychological issues around this disease, or any disease, are on both sides of the desk. So the physicians have stresses. It's hard to take care of people with serious illnesses who sometimes don't do okay. And if we want to have a healthy healthcare system, we need healthy physicians and other healthcare providers. And to pretend that doctors do not experience stress or healthcare or mental health issues, is just not accurate.
I was fascinated to learn that the doctors also sometimes stress about the outcomes of their patients and can face mental health challenges as well. It's important for them to be healthy so they can help us as the patients be healthy. That's not something I'd ever thought about, but it's good to know they are also human. You can watch the rest of Dr. Millard's presentation in the playlist. The second most interesting thing I learned at this conference was about Dr. Giovanni Cacciamani and his team's research into using AI to make healthcare information more accessible. Let's go back to Dr. Cacciamani's presentation.
So why is it important? Because a patient that understands medical information is an informed patient, is also somebody that is empowered with superpowers that, when you go to the physician, say, no, it's not true. Or, hey, I found this trial that could potentially fit my disease. Increase trust, enhance engagement, and most importantly, in 2024, we don't want to leave anybody behind. Equity, inclusiveness, and accessibility of the medical information is key. So, in 2014, and then was updated last year, the European Union put together the summaries of clinical trial results and laypersons. So, some guidelines that should be followed every time as physicians or academics we are writing a layperson summary on scientific contents. Is a very boring 25 pages document that is impossible to follow. They claim and they ask us to follow these rules for improving readability when this document is basically unreadable. So, and for this reason, and it's very difficult to follow. And our team and also a team from Ireland, we tried basically to test if the layperson summaries and the urological literature were actually readable or not. Spoiler alert: no, none of them. So, European Association of Urology journals, which actually are the only ones up to 100 journals that are the ones that provide a layperson summary. Well, none of those layperson summaries reach the threshold for readability and therefore are totally useless.
Isn't that cool? I personally, as the host of It Takes Balls, and just as someone who tries to help others who have been diagnosed but don't have a medical degree, find it hard to understand and interpret the research. I ask lots of dumb questions on the podcast and even dumber ones off the podcast. I won't say which doctor I asked, but the one I asked says he does not wear a diaper during surgery. I don't know if I could hold it that long. Anyway, having something that can reliably translate the medical jargon into something a dummy like me can understand is going to be incredibly helpful. The rest of Dr. Cacciamani's presentation, which includes a QR code to enroll in his study, is available in the conference playlist. And finally, the number one thing I took away from the 2024 Testicular Cancer Conference was Dr. Timothy Masterson's presentation on the retroperitoneal lymph node dissection. Play the clip.
What is the morbidity of surgery in current days? Well, this is just a couple of series from our institution, one from 2007 and then our most recent publication from June of this year. Generally, it's a 2 to 3 day hospitalization. We don't put nose tubes in very commonly anymore. Blood loss and transfusions are insignificant. In our most recent publication, lymphatic leaks or chylosocieties were 0.6% in our group. So I think that through the understanding of the neural anatomy, the vascular anatomy, the pattern of disease, we're trying to move forward in a way that we can minimize the impact of it. What about in the post-chemotherapy setting? Well, this is actually a little bit of an easier area to minimize the burden of surgery because chemotherapy's already gotten rid of the elements that are the most dangerous. So most of the time we're doing these surgeries to figure out if there's any teratoma left behind. So the criteria are a little bit more straightforward in this context. Outcomes as far as cancer-specific survival are very high. This is our 15-year data that we published a few years ago. Jane Cho was our fellow at the time, and she published our outcomes. So among modified template patients, we have almost a 98% ejaculatory rate and a recurrence-free survival at 15 years of 92%. So for early stage disease following chemotherapy, we can have a pretty significant impact on things and still preserve the quality of life aspects. One of the other aspects that we've learned over time is that we know when not to operate. So one of the important aspects is that with people getting chemotherapy, if they have a complete response to that, we don't necessarily need to go back in and operate on all of those patients unnecessarily because there's a high rate of patients that have no residual disease there. And if you look at 15-year data, the Ehrlich paper from our institution of 15.5 years has similar cancer-specific and disease-specific survival of those patients in the Corella study who all got surgery following chemotherapy if there was a complete response. So again, trying to minimize the impact of surgery when we don't have to.
That's super interesting. While the RPL&D is a major surgery, having it done at a high-volume center where these surgeries are done routinely is the key to minimizing risks. Of course, everyone's case is different and the risk will never be zero, but it's reassuring to know that science has advanced to make the surgery a lot of us need be less burdensome, and will continue to evolve to be even better for future patients thanks to doctors like Dr. Masterson. Well, that's it. Those are the top 3 things I took away from the conference. Thank you for all of the conference attendees and sponsors who made it possible. We look forward to seeing you next fall in Boston. The link to the conference page is in the description where you can sign up to be notified about when the speakers and dates are announced. Let us know in the comments what you thought was the most interesting from all of the presentations. Thanks for watching.